You sit in the dark, phone glowing faintly against your palm, staring at a message you don't know how to reply to. Your mind races, replaying every word of the conversation, every tone, every tiny pause. And yet, your lips stay pressed together, your finger hovering over the screen, because somehow saying anything feels too heavy. You know this feeling. The silence of a quiet mind isn't emptiness. It's a storm you carry alone, behind eyes that have learned to watch without speaking. There's a subtle power in this quiet. But it's not obvious. It doesn't announce itself. Instead, it hides in the corners of your daily life, waiting, observing, collecting pieces of the world that others rush past. You might be the person who notices the tiny details in a room, the way light falls across a cracked tile, the rhythm of a distant laugh, the shadow a stranger leaves on a cafe wall. You see what everyone else misses. And sometimes it feels like a curse, because you feel it all, and yet you never say it. Do you remember the last time you sat in a car, engine off, just staring at the road, not going anywhere? That stillness wasn't empty. It was your mind turning over a conversation, a glance, a fleeting moment that others would forget by morning. Quiet minds are often underestimated. People mistake silence for passivity, stillness for weakness. But there's a subtle ferocity in the way you observe, in the way you feel. You're not breaking the world into pieces. You're holding it in your hands. Have you ever caught yourself replaying a single word someone said, over and over, long after they've left the room? It's not obsession. It's your mind, quietly mapping the contours of connection, of misunderstanding, of everything that might have been left unsaid. You carry these hidden conversations inside you. Sometimes they whisper, sometimes they roar. You smile on the outside, nod politely, laugh at jokes. But inside you're walking through a labyrinth of thought, weighing meanings, guessing intentions, wondering if anyone would ever notice. It's exhausting, but there's a rhythm to it too. A strange kind of clarity. The quiet gives you space to see patterns where others see chaos. You notice tension in a friend's voice, hesitation in a coworker's email, subtle changes in tone that everyone else misses. Your mind is a compass, constantly attuned, silently guiding you through social landscapes. And yet sometimes you feel invisible. In a crowded room, you might watch unheard, unremarked upon. You wonder if your thoughts matter, if your perception, your insight, your depth will ever touch anyone else. Have you ever stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, heart beating fast over a conversation that happened 3 days ago? Not because it was dramatic, but because your mind simply refuses to let it go. That's the hidden strength of your quiet mind. It remembers, processes, understands. Even when the world moves on. You might think being quiet makes you weak, but actually, it allows you to absorb more than the loudest voices ever could. You notice the way people leave, the way they linger. You see patterns in human behavior that others can't, because your mind doesn't need constant noise to understand. Sometimes, though, you wonder if this strength is also your burden. You feel deeply. You observe without relief. You overthink, overanalyze, and sometimes the sheer weight of internal life feels unbearable. And yet, you keep going. You keep walking quietly through the world, because this is the way your mind moves, deliberate, careful searching. You scroll through your phone late at night, not because you want to, but because you need a thread, a connection, a sense that anyone is thinking about something beyond themselves. You pause at a photo, a status update, a half-written message, and you imagine the life behind it. You imagine their mind, and in doing so, you exercise a kind of empathy most people never experience. Think about the last time you avoided eye contact in a conversation, not out of shyness, but because looking felt too revealing. Your mind is alive, churning. You notice every flicker, every micro-expression. You understand the weight of unspoken things, and you carry all of it quietly. You've learned to hide, to observe, to retreat into thought when the world becomes too loud. And in that hiding, in that retreat, you discover layers of yourself that the outside world never touches. You notice your own patterns, your own triggers, your own fears. And slowly, without anyone noticing, you build resilience. But here's the paradox: the quiet mind is both sharp and fragile. You see more, but you feel more. You anticipate pain, you sense tension, and sometimes it feels like your mind is a map of every possibility that could go wrong. And yet, the very same mind is capable of profound insight, deep understanding, and subtle influence, without ever needing to assert itself. Have you ever wondered why the loudest person in the room is often the least aware of what's really happening, and why the quietest person sometimes knows more than anyone else? It's not magic. It's the unseen muscle of careful thought, the unseen architecture of observation. There's a strange beauty in this. A quiet mind can hold contradictions without collapsing. You can feel despair and hope at the same time, noticing the fragility of life without losing your own center. And because you feel it all internally, your actions, when they come, carry weight. People may not notice the thought behind them, but it's there, always there. And yet, even with all this inner life, there's a loneliness to the quiet. The world doesn't ask for your depth. It celebrates noise. It rewards speed. It misunderstands subtlety. And sometimes you feel that gap between who you are inside and how you are seen outside. You remember the times you stayed silent, even when you wanted to speak. The moments you held back, weighed down by the fear of being misunderstood. And yet there's also a strange pride in that restraint. You've survived without loudness. You've observed without interference. You've navigated without needing validation. Quiet minds do something extraordinary. They turn observation into understanding, and understanding into subtle strength. But they rarely announce it. They rarely explain it. The world doesn't see the fire behind your calm, and maybe that's the point. Sometimes, late at night, you look in the mirror and ask yourself questions you would never ask anyone else. Questions about choices, about love, about the shape of your own mind. And the answers, they are never simple. They are never complete. They linger half-formed, like shadows at the edge of consciousness. And in that lingering, there is life. There is movement. There is something quietly revolutionary about being able to hold so much inside, to feel so much, to notice so much, and still walk through the world in silence. Maybe that's what quiet minds teach us. Not the loud lessons, not the obvious victories, but the hidden ones, the soft power of noticing, of feeling, of being deeply, irreducibly human. And perhaps, the most profound question of all is not about understanding the world, or even ourselves, but about what happens when a mind that observes everything finally chooses to speak. There's a strange intimacy in being alone with your thoughts. You sit in a room that hums quietly, the soft buzz of electricity in the background, and you watch the world move without needing to join it. You notice things that others don't, the way sunlight filters through blinds in the late afternoon, the faint rhythm of a neighbor's music through the walls, the minute way someone's expression shifts when they laugh or when they hold back a word. These observations are small, almost invisible, but for a quiet mind, they accumulate like layers of understanding. When people speak, when conversations swirl around you, a quiet mind doesn't always respond immediately. Sometimes it doesn't respond at all. You're busy collecting, storing, piecing together fragments of sound, tone, and intention. You notice the pauses that seem accidental, the half-smiles that might hide something, the hesitations in voice that betray an emotion someone didn't intend to share. Every moment becomes data, not in a cold, clinical way, but as a kind of emotional cartography. You're mapping the world, silently, moment by moment, and you carry it inside yourself. It isn't just other people you absorb. You take in your own emotions in ways that most never allow themselves. When your chest tightens in the quiet of a late night, when your mind spins through a conversation from hours ago, you don't rush to dismiss it. You feel it. You analyze it. You fold it into your understanding of yourself. That sensation of overthinking that feels like a weight, it's actually your mind recording every detail, every nuance, even the ones you wish you could forget. Imagine scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m., staring at a message you didn't send, or rereading a post that made you feel something unexpected. Quiet minds linger there. You don't just read, you interpret, imagine, replay, and revise. You consider what was meant and what wasn't, what could have been said differently, what could have been felt differently. It isn't idle rumination. It's absorption, a process of quietly taking in the world and filing it away in ways that are invisible to others. People often mistake quietness for emptiness. They assume that if you're not speaking, you're not thinking. But in truth, the silence is full. Your mind is a vessel, and the things you absorb aren't always easy to carry. You notice patterns of behavior, recurring emotions, contradictions in people's actions, and subtleties in your own heart. You recognize the way someone hesitates before saying a word, the weight behind a compliment, the hidden meaning in a casual remark. You see the world in layers that others never pause to explore. There's an intimacy with detail that only quiet minds experience. A soft glance between strangers, a fleeting shadow, a tone that doesn't match the words. These are not just peripheral notes. They are data points that your mind collects, storing them with care. Over time, you develop a nuanced understanding of how people operate, not because you demand it, but because your mind is naturally attentive. You absorb more than you express, and in that absorption, you gain a depth that is rarely visible but profoundly felt. Absorbing more than you express doesn't mean being passive. It means being receptive in a way that feels exhausting at times. You carry the tension of unsaid words, the weight of unshared feelings, the subtleties of others' moods. You feel the quiet disappointments in conversations, the moments when connection almost happens but doesn't. You remember the things people overlook, the small gestures, the barely their size, the unspoken requests. And you store all of it internally, not for show, not for acknowledgement, but because your mind notices and noticing itself matters. It is a paradox, this capacity. Because the same mind that absorbs so much often struggles to release it. You might replay a moment from days ago, turning it over, imagining multiple outcomes. You feel a word that wasn't said, a glance that went unnoticed, and you consider the significance of both. It's not obsession. It's absorption at a deep level, where your mind doesn't let things pass unnoticed. Quiet minds live in these internal landscapes constantly. Even in social settings, when laughter fills a room, when conversations overlap, when people argue or joke, a quiet mind is still collecting, cataloging, interpreting. You might laugh with them, nod politely, even contribute occasionally, but beneath the surface, your mind is watching, absorbing, filing, noting. Every detail adds to an unseen reservoir of knowledge and insight. There's a patience to this process, a deliberate stillness. You don't need to articulate everything immediately because your mind is already working, already threading together ideas, emotions, and patterns. And sometimes when the world asks for instant response or public declaration, that quiet capacity can feel isolating. You hold more than you share, and the weight of that hidden world is both your power and your burden. And yet, the quiet mind's strength is subtle. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand recognition. It grows in the spaces between words, in the silences that most people rush to fill. It notices the invisible, understands the unspoken, and preserves the moments that would otherwise slip through unnoticed. Even in solitude, even in darkness, the quiet mind is active, alive, absorbing what others discard. Have you ever considered how much of your life passes through your own mind, unseen by anyone else? Every thought, every detail, every tiny moment of noticing builds a quiet architecture of awareness. And this is the hidden, unacknowledged power of being quiet, to see and feel more than you reveal, to understand more than you say, and to hold the world's subtle truths within yourself, carefully, faithfully, without a sound. You sit at your desk, fingers hovering over the keyboard, and the words never come. The silence around you feels thick, almost tactile, and yet inside, your mind is louder than a storm. You replay a conversation from earlier, a smile that didn't quite reach someone's eyes, a comment that felt sharp even if it wasn't meant to be. You hold it all inside because speaking it aloud feels impossible, or perhaps unnecessary. The quiet you show the world masks a mind that is endlessly moving, endlessly calculating, endlessly feeling. Silence isn't absence, it is a container. You carry thoughts in it, and sometimes those thoughts carry you. Every pause, every measured nod, every moment you choose not to respond is an act of mental labor. Your mind does not rest in silence. It sifts through memories, aligns emotions with experience, weighs possibility against reality, and tries to make sense of the smallest interactions that might otherwise pass unnoticed. Think about the moments you've stayed quiet in a group, letting others speak over you. You smile, you laugh, you nod. On the outside you appear calm, even disinterested. But inside you are untangling a web of emotion, confusion, empathy, frustration, longing, all at once. You notice the subtleties. The way someone hesitated before answering, the tension in a colleague's shoulder, the sadness behind a friend's half-hearted joke. Your silence is a stage for processing, for observing, for understanding layers of human emotion that are invisible to most. When someone asks if you're okay, You often reply with a simple yes. And yes, it's true, you might be fine, but also true, your mind is still working. It is replaying, reflecting, questioning. You notice how your pulse changes in certain interactions, how your stomach knots when someone speaks sharply, how your chest tightens when words are left unsaid. The quiet you project is not an absence of thought. It is the deepest kind of engagement, an internal dialogue that can take hours or days to resolve. Have you ever noticed how silence can be heavier than any word? A pause in conversation can feel like a cavern, echoing with unspoken emotion. You sense what others are feeling before they articulate it, and sometimes you even feel the weight of emotions they themselves haven't admitted to. You carry all of this internally, cataloging, analyzing, and slowly trying to make sense of it. And because it happens inside, it often appears as though you are detached, indifferent, or uninvested. In the quiet moments alone, the mind stretches even further. You revisit exchanges, sometimes stretching them over hours or even days. A glance in a grocery store, a sentence in passing, a fleeting smile, these fragments take on enormous significance in your mind. You examine them from every angle, considering context, timing, tone, and possible implications. While others forget almost immediately, your mind lingers, turning simple moments into elaborate internal narratives. There's an unspoken rhythm to this process. You absorb emotion silently, but the way it moves through you is deliberate. You can feel waves of frustration, excitement, sadness, or joy, sometimes all at once. And as you sit in silence, you try to reconcile them, to make sense of their origin, to understand their meaning. This is why quiet people sometimes seem so calm. The visible stillness belays an intricate, ongoing mental symphony. Even in conflict, your silence is purposeful. You notice the tension in your own body, the tightening of your jaw, the subtle rise and fall of your breath. You analyze the other person's expressions, their pauses, the way they shift in their seat, the small, almost imperceptible gestures that betray discomfort or unease. And you do all of this while maintaining composure, carefully choosing when, or if, to speak. The silence you show the world is not emptiness. It is containment, a space for processing that which cannot yet be expressed. Sometimes this internal processing feels overwhelming. You hold entire conversations in your head that never happen. You imagine every possible outcome, replay every possible word. A single comment can spiral into a labyrinth of meaning, regrets, and what-ifs. And yet, you keep it inside. You do not share because sharing might disrupt the intricate work your mind is doing, or because you fear being misunderstood. Late at night, silence becomes even more intense. The world outside your window quiets, and your mind grows louder. You think of things you haven't admitted to anyone, the small pains, the regrets, the hidden joys, the subtle betrayals, the moments of unspoken connection. You relive them, analyze them, feel them fully, layer upon layer. And in those hours you realize how much of life is carried silently. Within the mind, never spoken but deeply felt. Your silence is also a shield. It protects the world from the full weight of your processing, the raw complexity of your inner life. You know that not everything needs a voice. Some thoughts are too intricate, too fragile, or too unresolved to be shared. You keep them close, not as a burden, but as a repository of understanding, a private archive of emotional truth. And still, even with all this absorption, you are aware of a gap between your inner reality and the outer world. People often don't see the layers you carry. They may misinterpret your quietness as detachment, indifference, or passivity. They do not know that behind your calm exterior is a mind working tirelessly, connecting dots, feeling deeply, and holding a world of emotion that is invisible but profoundly present. You have learned that silence can be more revealing than words. That listening, observing, feeling, and absorbing without immediate expression is a kind of intelligence. A quiet mind doesn't rush, it lingers. It allows space for emotion to settle, to be understood, to be processed before it is acted upon. And in that space, insights emerge, truths are felt, and connections are understood on a level most people never reach. Have you noticed the subtle power in the moments when you choose not to speak? That in the very act of remaining silent, you absorb, you understand, you process, and you learn things about yourself and others that words could never capture.